Good morning, everybody. My name is Kara. I'm the owner of Elite Engraving, and I wanted to do a quick video to give you a little glimpse into my world in the laser world and show you a little bit about some of the programs that we use in the laser and how those communicate together. Okay, so this program that we use for the CO2 laser is called Lightburn, and this is just a basic logo that I already have that I use for our business. And we're gonna actually go ahead and set this up to engrave and cut a coaster. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm wanting to remove the text, and then we are gonna create a circle. And up here, we're gonna adjust the size. Say 2 inches by 2 inches. We're actually gonna engrave this on a piece of leather. So we're gonna come over, and I've got a little piece of leather hide left, and just kind of measure how much space I have to engrave a circle. So I've got about 2.5 inches diameter. So we're gonna come over here and go to 2.5 inches. Take the circle, and I'm gonna highlight our graphic, and I'm gonna group this together. And we're gonna take and size this down so that way it fits in the circle. Center that here, so it's centered on the circle. And now I'm gonna tell the laser what I want each layer to do. So for this, typically when we do coasters, we have a stitch line and we have a cut line. So I want to add another line. I'm gonna come over here and do an outward circle that's big enough to where it will fit the stitch line inside of it. So what I want it to do is I want it to engrave all of this, and then I want it to cut, but not too deep, just enough so that way it makes a line, so that way when we bring it over to the sewing machine, we can actually do a stitch line. So, and then this outer layer here is gonna be our cut line. So if I want that to do something different than the outer line, I need to make it a different color. So I'm gonna make that pink, and then I'm gonna come over to here. And typically for a stitch line, I do about a 10 speed and a 20 power. And this is something that just learned over time. Every material, every product we use has a different speed, different power, different number of passes, different kerf offset. I don't want this one to have an offset, so I'm gonna put 0. And then for my green cut line, this is gonna be more powerful because I want it to actually cut the line completely through. So the speed's gonna be a lot slower and the power is going to be much higher. Okay, and so we've got our line here and our cut line. And then for the engrave setting, I typically set this at about a 30-43 for leather and about a 400 DPI or LPI, which is lines per inch. So the more lines per inch I put on here, the more close together the engraved lines are when the laser's moving back and forth. So now I want to tell it which order I want it to do these steps in. So typically I want to have the engrave done first, because if I do the cut first and it becomes loose, then when it engraves the logo, it might not be completely centered. So I want to do the engrave first, then I want to do the stitch line, and then I want it to do the cut line. And I did add an extra layer on the outside, so I want to go back in and resize my circle to make sure it's at 2.5. I need to take and group this together so that way it does it 2.5. Okay, so now we have a 2.5 circle, and I can actually click this window up here and it will give me a live replay of what the laser is going to do. So right now it's showing me that it's going to engrave first. I can actually grab this and speed through a little faster. And then it's going to do the circle and then the cutout. So I can do that just to make sure that everything is in the proper order. And then the orientation for where I'm going to set the job origin, I want to orient it on the top left, which is where I'm going to set my laser up to. And we're going to come over here, turn on the laser. First thing I want to do is I want to tell the laser where I would like to start the top left corner of the engrave. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to hit origin, come back to the computer, I'm going to send this over, okay, back to the laser, okay, and I'm going to hit escape. File, and here's our file right here. We want to bring that up, make sure everything looks okay. Turn this light back on. And then we're going to hit the frame button, and that frame button is going to show me exactly where it's going to cut. As you can see, that's going over the line, so I need to move it up a little more. And then I'll reframe it until I get it positioned to where it's not going to come over that line. And that looks perfect. Then I'm going to grab my focus tool, and this tool right here is what we use to focus it directly onto the product that we're engraving. And it's already focused really well. If it was up here, I would move this head down. If it was too tight, I'd move it up. So I can adjust the laser for that. Everything looks good there. Okay. And we're gonna close the laser. And there we go. Okay, now it's doing the line. So that didn't cut all the way through, it just made an imprint so I know where to stitch. And it's doing the cut all the way through. Obviously this is a really tiny coaster, just to show as an example. Brush it clean. You don't have to worry about the other dirt marks, because once we actually go in to dye it, then we're going to go and it'll actually get rid of most of this as well. But there you go.